What if the story you've always been told about polio, the terrifying epidemics, the miracle vaccines, the iron lungs wasn't even half the truth? Hello, I am Dr. K. Paul Staller, here to bring you up to speed on the lie that brought us today's vaccine program. The first cases of paralysis that looked like polio appeared in the late 1700s. Doctors noticed children with weak or paralyzed legs and lesions in their spinal cords. For decades, the condition was rare, isolated cases here and there. But then, at the end of the 19th century, something changed. A new pesticide called lead arsenate was sprayed heavily in the U.S. Within just 2 years, large outbreaks of paralysis struck children, and not just humans, but animals too. Horses, dogs, chickens, even pigs. That alone raised a red flag. The polio virus doesn't infect those animals, so something else was going on. At the same time, medicine was gripped by Koch's postulates, the belief that every disease must be caused by one single microbe and any other causes were ignored. When a virus that could trigger paralysis in monkeys was identified, they named it poliovirus. From that point on, nearly all paralysis was attributed to this one culprit, even though pesticides, mercury powders, and other viruses could cause the exact same damage. Fast forward to the 1940s and 50s, DDT was sprayed everywhere and on everything, on food, bedding, even directly onto children. Paralysis exploded and polio wards filled. But as the extreme overuse of toxic pesticides were reined in, the outbreaks began to fade long before vaccines could fully explain the decline. In fact, early vaccines performed poorly. Many who got multiple shots still developed paralysis. The vaccine was actually causing the paralysis. I was one of its victims, and let's not even talk about the cancer-causing SV40 virus that was injected into millions of Americans. Later, the oral vaccine did control some poliovirus infections in the gut, but by then, cases of paralysis had already collapsed alongside the reduction in toxic pesticide use. This suggests something profound. Polio was never just one disease caused by one virus. It was a collection of paralytic conditions, often triggered or worsened by man-made toxins that weakened the nervous system and allowed microbes to cause greater harm. The iconic iron lung photo rows of machines in a giant hall was largely a publicity stunt. In reality, there were only about 1,000 iron lungs in the whole country. Those horrible photos were actually the result of the first mass polio vaccination program called the Cutter Incident, where the vaccine gave 200,000 children polio. So, what's the takeaway? Polio wasn't solved by a miracle vaccine. It was, in large part, a man-made problem that receded when our environment became less toxic. And that lesson matters today. If we had understood what the polio epidemic had really been about, not only would the use of pesticides been drastically reduced, but the vaccine program would have been exposed for being without efficacy. If this knowledge had made its way to the public, there probably would never have been the COVID democide, the autism epidemic, and many other health problems we deal with today. The polio vaccine story isn't just medical history. It's a cautionary piece of history that is still not understood and resulted in a runaway vaccine schedule with little to no efficacy.